Imagine if I'd never moved to London, if I'd stayed in Sudan, my communication would have got worse and worse.
In South Africa, I grew up with a hard of hearing identity. I wasn't deaf and I wasn't hearing.
Looking back, I was innocent, isolated and unaware. Now, I'm assertive, confident and most importantly, independent.
Hello, my name is Ahmed.
Hello, I'm Mangai, and this is my sign name.
Hi, I'm Danny, and this is my sign name.
I grew up in Sudan with my family. I was born hearing, then when I was 1 or 2, I became deaf. What happened was I was looking around for some food when I spotted a milk bottle in a bowl. I didn't realise it was full of hot water. The water fell on me and I collapsed. I was rushed to hospital. I was there a while. Before I was treated, I was hearing. Afterwards, I was deaf.
I was born in South Africa, in Cape Town. I was born deaf, and my parents realised I was deaf when I was 18 months old. I was given hearing aids. I realised I was deaf when I was 4 or 5. I knew I was different. I was deaf.
I was born in Sri Lanka. I was born hearing, but when I was 7, I had an accident and became deaf. After the accident, I needed treatment, but the civil war restricted travel. So it was decided that I'd go to India with my father. We couldn't fly there because of the war, so we had to go by boat. It was a rocky, dangerous journey, but we arrived in India. I had treatment and got better. Then my father looked for a school and found a deaf school, but it was oral. That's where I went.
When I was in primary mainstream school, I remember being in class and missing so much. Other pupils teased me. I was so frustrated. It led to fights in the playground. I behaved awfully. I didn't understand what was happening or why it was continuing. It made me very upset.
I grew up oral and could lip read my family and people I knew well. One-to-one was fine. Groups were difficult. Hardest of all were new people. I was lost.
Being the only deaf person in mainstream school, I had to fit in. I had to pretend to understand friends' jokes and group discussions. I had to pretend to laugh. If I kept asking people what they said, it would have made me look different. So I pretended to laugh even when I couldn't understand. It was my coping strategy to fit in with the group.
My sister, Amima, is also deaf. She's 6 years older than me. When I was angry and frustrated, she understood because she was deaf too. My sister wanted to do something, so she talked to my father. Because she'd seen how bad things were getting. So she told my father to think about my education, to do something. After that, my father decided to move me to the UK. So when I was 6, I moved to the UK and I arrived in London. What hit me was the colours. The buildings were different, the weather was different. When I got to the deaf school, I had no concept of where I was, as I had no language. I went in and I was shown where to put my bags. I hadn't been told anything. I was a boarder. I was told it was a deaf school for children who couldn't hear. And that's when it hit me. I was deaf and my family were hearing. I hadn't realised. Until then, I had no concept of whether I was deaf or hearing. It was only when I got to the deaf school that I realised I was deaf, like the others.
I lived with my father, who was very strict and protective. He'd say no a lot. For example, I couldn't go to a friend's house or to other places, except if he came too. He was protective because I was deaf. It was different for my sister. She could go on courses and so on. I couldn't. It was frustrating being deaf. My brother and sister moved to France. Later, it was decided that I should move to the UK. I'd have a better life here. I arrived in the UK and we drove to my auntie's flat. It was nice. It was different. My auntie and uncle were lovely people. But communication was difficult. They didn't know how to talk to me. They went back to work and I was stuck indoors. It was the same every day. I couldn't understand the flat's entry system. I couldn't understand the TV or English newspapers. I'd just look out of the window at the cars going by. For 1 year, every single day. I'd had enough. My brother came to visit and we went out. We went for a walk, but I was fuming. I told my brother I'd had enough and I wanted to go back to India. My brother said, "What?" I was crying and shouting. My behaviour was so different. It shocked my brother. He told me to calm down, but I said no, I want to go back to India. I said I'd had enough. For 1 year, I've been looking out of the window. That's when it hit home, and he understood. My brother decided to move to the UK to help.
I finished university and became a qualified teacher. I wanted to see what was next. I had the opportunity to apply for a visa to come to the UK, to move and explore, travel, and maybe find work. My first job was at a deaf school, where I saw deaf children signing. The staff signed as well. It made me want to learn to sign, so I could communicate easily and fluently. It made a big impact on me. I met a classroom assistant who became my friend. Her name is Manuela. She knew I hadn't met many people in the deaf community. So she asked me to go with her one Friday night to a deaf, gay and lesbian club called the Brothers and Sisters Club. So I went. Remember when we first met? What did you think of me?
I remember working at Blanche Neville's school. You came and I saw you were deaf. You wore hearing aids. I was excited, of course, to meet a new deaf person. We connected quickly, I remember. I remember you didn't know anything about the deaf world or the deaf community. You saw that staff all signed and you were interested.
I remember our friendship developed. Then you told me about a deaf, gay and lesbian club called the Brothers and Sisters Club. You invited me. Do you remember that?
We went and you were nervous about not understanding people's signs. I told you it'd be fine. They were all friendly. It'll be easy. Just come along. I remember you met everyone and they were interested in meeting a new face.
That's right.
They're like that. They welcome you, and it was fine. There was no need to be nervous.
You met me 17 years ago. How have I changed? Am I the same or different?
Of course, your personality is the same. But what's changed is before you used gestures and speech and didn't sign. Now you're different. You sign fluently. You know you need to sign, and you know about your deaf identity. You found that. Before, you didn't have that. You didn't know about the deaf world, deaf identity and deaf community. Now, you're richer for it.
I wanted to work, but I couldn't because I didn't understand English. I couldn't write, I couldn't read. My brother tried to help me get onto a course. But it was impossible because I couldn't communicate. So my brother told me I had to learn to sign. I said no, I thought signing was for stupid people. I grew up oral and I was proud of it. My brother insisted, saying it would be better for my future. So I swallowed my pride, and my brother came with me. Then I realised I liked it. As I was learning sign language, I decided I'd like to teach BSL. I decided to go to college, and that's where I met Melinda. She was my teacher. I've got so much respect for her. She supported, guided, and encouraged me step by step. She was brilliant. Hello.
Nice to see you again.
It's been ages. Do you remember supporting me a lot for 3 years?
I remember you came and you wanted to learn to teach sign language. My first impressions were that you were small, petite, with long plaits, and enthusiastic. I remember that clearly.
I feel the support you gave me at the time was important. Because I was struggling, I had been upset and low in confidence. You reassured me and explained cultural things I didn't understand. One day, I was upset. I was on the verge of quitting. You talked to me in private and told me not to get distracted. Then I decided to stay. If I'd quit, I'd have been finished. I wouldn't be here now.
I didn't want you to quit. I wanted to encourage you. You had lots of potential, were enthusiastic, and I thought you'd make a good teacher. I observed you on your teaching placements and you were so good. It would have been a shame for you to quit. So I was determined to encourage and support you to get through the course.
That was 10 years ago, right? Now I've explained how you've changed my life. How do you feel?
I feel proud and impressed. I remember you came here and had so many struggles, and now you have your own business. You teach in different places. You're doing very well. In London, everybody knows Mangai. So I'm impressed and pleased that you got through the course.
Thank you so much. That was an important time for me.
Thank you.
When I was at deaf school, I had deaf friends who invited me to stay at their house at the weekends. I thought, why not? So I stayed with them. They asked me to go to the deaf club. I didn't know what the deaf club was. I went and saw there were more deaf people. They were all signing, and they had events, sports, lots of sports. And football too. I loved it and visited again and again. I realised that I thought the deaf school was all there was. But there was a deaf community through the deaf club. My sister Amima and I are so close. She asked me to come with her to events, and I asked her to come with me to things. We text each other and use Skype to keep in touch with each other's lives. We meet up and visit each other. We're close. I want to know. I moved to the UK when I was 6. Before that, what was I like?
You were difficult. It was difficult to cope with you.
What?
Like, you'd disappear. When you got frustrated with communication, you'd shout. And you were so stubborn. If our father said no, you wouldn't accept it. If he said no, you'd shout and you never stopped.
What made you talk to Dad about me moving? How?
I had 3 reasons. First, I'd experienced a lot of struggle with language and learning at school through lip reading. Second, being alone. I had extra tuition at home every day. I couldn't go and play. They wanted me to polish up my maths and English and whatever. Thirdly, friends. I had none because of all the extra tuition. Did I want that for you? No. I told my father that wouldn't suit you. How do you feel about me telling Dad you should move to the UK?
Grateful. I found my identity, my language.
Do you accept what I told Dad? I wasn't sure if you'd be angry with me.
Look at me now. You saved my life, really. I could have been like you, but you saved my life. I really appreciate it. You knew how I was. You wanted to see me more happy. Dad listened to you. I'm amazed. Really, looking back, I just accepted it. I didn't realise the meaning, that you didn't want me to suffer like you suffered. I didn't realise that. I understand now. Really, thank you.
I love teaching deaf children. I feel my skill is connecting with them, helping them to learn, giving them skills and opportunities through being a role model for them. That makes me happy. If I hadn't moved to the UK, I would have probably stayed in South Africa, stayed in the hearing world, speaking and lip reading. It would have been a struggle, maybe hard going, who knows? It might have been hard to get a job, who knows? But moving to the UK meant I found my deaf identity. I got into the deaf community, the deaf world, and sign language. I also met my husband, Patrick, who is strongly part of the deaf world. It's lovely. I'm happy and content. It's just lovely.
BSL has given me power. For example, in Asian culture, you have to have an arranged marriage. For me, that would be difficult. I decided to marry my husband because we communicated well and were a good fit. I had to persuade my family and stand my ground. I was allowed to marry him. It was an important decision which came from the way BSL empowered me. I've worked to support deaf people from ethnic backgrounds, to encourage them to be positive because I've been through some bad experiences. I don't want the same for them. I want to be positive and educate them. I've set up events as well. For example, I set up a mailer, a lovely event that lots of deaf people came to, with a variety of attractions. I believe that being deaf helped me achieve lots of things. All through having a deaf identity. I've often wondered, if I was hearing, would I be like this? Never, never. Being deaf made me roll up my sleeves and aim for the top. That's what I believe.
Really, I have to thank my friends for telling me to try and be a TV presenter. There were auditions for VTV. I didn't think I could do it. My friend said it was worth a try, so I said, all right. I went to the audition and I got it.
Let's give it up for Ahmed Mudawi!
Imagine if I hadn't moved to London and stayed in Sudan. Would it have happened? It was so valuable. VTV was a fantastic experience. Wow.
Comparing my life growing up with my life now, the difference is amazing. Access in the UK is fantastic. Education is better. There's greater equality. Deaf life is much better here. If I was still in Sri Lanka, it'd be awful.
The UK has given me a deaf identity, deaf pride, sign language, access, and deaf friends. That's what it's given me.
I'm really lucky to be here in the UK, in London, my home. I really want to thank my deaf friends, people, my family, for accepting who I am. Thank you.